£120? You must be joking, lad.
It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer Fantasy, it's easy to learn the rules. Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington Show.
Welcome one and all, it's time for yet another thrilling instalment of the Andy and Rem Show. Episode 129. And as we go past this beautiful and shocking thumbnail, see that I am joined, as always, by Mr. Remington. Hello there.
Hello there, Andrew. How are you?
I am fine and dandy. I notice you're not using an Andy and Rem Show mug there, which are available at the Redbubble store now.
Are they £120, Andy?
They are not, but considering people obviously have £120 to throw around, maybe we should consider bumping our prices up a little bit. Because the Sons of Beermat, that is how I'm going to pronounce it forever, they're here, they're in your face, they're tall, they're large, they're proud, they're £120. So, Mr. Remington, give us your initial reaction when you saw that price tag for the first time.
I was disgusted. I was shocked. I was appalled. I couldn't believe it. But then I came to a reasoning. Do you want to hear my theory? Or should we listen and look at what the audience is saying?
Well, maybe we should do a bit of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, who have we got in there?
Well, Graham Rigg, he says £120 might leave that one for Christmas.
Yeah, Santa is going to have to push the boat out a bit this year if he's going to be getting everyone the new Mega Gargant.
And our loyal friend, just as Graham is, Raphael Maj says £120 for one Andy, or do I get a Rem too?
Well, the Rem is obviously the free gift, because no one would pay good money for that, would they?
That's nasty, Andy. You nasty little man.
We've also got Batzuka and Brad and Stu in there as well, all saying hello. Hello, everybody.
And we've got the legendary Bad Squiddo Games. She's staying up for this show because she's usually in bed. And we've put the show earlier, Andy. Why is that?
Well, main reason is because we've got our finger on the pulse of the world, the community, the hip youngsters these days. They're going to bed earlier, and if they want to tune in for this show now, they don't have to stay up quite so late. So we're going to see if that causes a dramatic boost in ratings, and if it does, this could be a permanent slot.
Interesting.
I think the world's very excited to see new developments on this show. Not only that, not only have we got the new time slot, we've also been innovating with the new graphics. New segments are going to be coming soon as well. Very exciting times ahead. And in case your eyes drawn to any of the news along the bottom there, you may see that Remington's PC, while maybe it hasn't been repaired as such, it has been replaced. So do you want to give us a bit of a tech update in the world of Remington?
I'm approaching this problem with a three-pronged attack. Attack number one, I'm getting my PC repaired professionally. Attack number two, I'm buying a new PC. And we'll sell the old PC once repaired. And attack prong number three to complete the trident of my PC story is that I'm currently using a Microsoft Surface Pro laptop, which is pretty snazzy, and you can pull the screen off, and it turns into a giant iPad. Pretty cool. So that's what I'm working with.
So Remington's technological trident. Technologically triumphant trident. Perhaps.
It's tried and trusted trident.
Trident Trusted. There's a brand name. Has anyone used that yet?
The tried and trusted Remington Industries.
Yes, Annie just got one of those as well, a Surface Pro.
Wow, I'm her Surface Bro.
Surface Bros.
Like that. Yeah.
So
we've been looking forward to the Giants for ages. It's been set back because of the global issue, obviously. Games Workshop's been thriving despite the issue, and we're going to prove that with something we're going to show. I'm very proud of. And suddenly, we've got a new army, right? Sons of Behemat, or Behemat, as is known to those from the north, like yourself. So, how many models would you have in a Sons of Behemat army? How many models would you have in a giant army?
well, looking at this, you're going to need at least 5 or 6 of these. What are they called? Is it Kraken Eater? Something like that.
Why
Mega
5 or
Gargants,
6?
anyway. Well, that's how many are in this picture. But, of course, you can use them with your existing Gargants or Giants for us old school types. Or everything
Right.
got
Well,
crazy new names.
I think we'd have to know how many points these giants cost. I mean, they're probably different points, but would you say if you've got a 2,000 point game, would these giants cost, what, 500 points each?
Yeah, I would think in an average game you'd expect something like this to be a quarter of your army, pretty much, wouldn't it? Makes sense to me?
It's huge, right? A quarter of your army. So then you'd have maybe 4 giants in a 2,000 point game, right? And your average army, I calculated, and this is my theory, by the way, your average army will cost you in pounds if you bought it new. I'm thinking between 300 and 450 pounds. Brand new retail, okay? So it makes sense that these giants cost what they do. From that perspective, anyway.
From a gaming perspective.
I mean,
so, if they sold a tiny little glowing orb that could annihilate everything on the table, it was 2,000 points in the game, they would then charge how much for it? £500?
Well, aesthetically, we'd have to also know just how big these models really are. Okay, because are you paying for plastic? Are you paying for the bits that you get with it?
So, look at that. That is it there next to the existing giants. Now, I think it actually looks a bit smaller than it did in the previous comparison pictures. I think the other ones are a bit more flattering height-wise, because the existing giant definitely goes up just above the groinal region here. And I think the previous image, it didn't quite get that high with the top of its head. So it's still an absolute beast. And you can have a look at the sprues on here as well. And we'll go through all the fancy detail and stuff in a minute. But on the sprue, obviously, because you can make it into multiple different varieties of your Mega Gargant, which I don't like them using that name, since that name already exists in the 40k universe. But anyway, here are the sprues. 1, 2, 3, 4 sprues, it looks like there. Lots of pieces. And if you look at these 3, they all have vastly different parts. The only thing that's the same on all of them, arguably, is the legs, perhaps. The same pose with the legs, which is pretty much what you expect. And they give you the illusion, though, they're quite good at this, GW, without actually changing anything at all. They make the front of the model look different by having the face turned a different way, so you look at it from this angle instead of this front-on view. Very sneaky there. But they all have different weapons in both hands, or different accessories in both hands, all have different heads, all have different danglage going on.
I mean, you could cross-dress these guys, couldn't you? You could have the guy with the mask on, and that he could be holding the bag. There could be just different, different weapons, arms. You could just mix this up completely, couldn't you?
The bits and conversion possibilities are potentially endless if you can get bits that are big enough to fit in with this kit. But as far as danglage goes, you can throw on there pretty much whatever you want, even things from the old giant, like the guy in the sack, his cage, for example. Any of those accessories would look fine on the new one. We didn't want to put that wimpy little arm on this thing, though.
I mean, Andy, when you put them side by side like that, the old giant there, what you don't see is he's quite hunched over. So he's not that big. That comparison doesn't look like it should be 4 times more expensive. Because that's what it is, right? The old giant's about, 30 quid?
Something like that.
And the new giant is what, 120?
120. I don't know if that makes it the most expensive model they have, but if it's not, then it's pretty damn close. And we're not counting things like the Forge World Lord of the Rings dragon, which is some like £500 or something ridiculous like that.
I mean, I went to the model shop at the weekend for the first time in Yonks, man, the independent model store in Leicester. And guess what I bought?
Ooh, do you want me to guess?
I had a stack of stuff in my hands, and I had to cut back and I picked 2 things in the end, apart from some paints, and I got this interesting colour here.
Was it something gigantic?
It was. But the reason why I'm talking about this is that I want you to tell me if you think the new giant is bigger than the thing I bought.
Okay. This could be a new segment. Is it bigger with Remington? I think the audience would tune in for that. Here we go. It's about to show us.
Okay.
On there.
So, this is an old Finecast model of an orc on a wyvern. He did used to have an actual name, but I can't remember it. Okay. Beautifully painted. I don't even know if you can get this anymore. You probably can. But not for too much longer, I imagine. Now, that's a big model. Okay, you could say that would be a centerpiece model in your army. And this is the Loon Shrine.
Ah.
Yes, sir. This is the Loon Shrine. I'm just going to make sure I can see what you can see, because I can't. That's better. Right, so that's the Loon Shrine.
How much did that cost you?
I don't know, about 28 quid, I think. I got it a bit cheaper, right? That's 28 quid, and that's a big bit. That's a big chunk of plastic, right? And I haven't even got all the mushrooms on it yet, but that'll be fun to paint. And, if you're looking at how big a goblin is, it's probably about that big in comparison, all right? So an ogre is probably about that big, right? So the old giant is about that big. So the new giant, you'd think is as tall as this Loon Shrine. But should it be 3 times, 4 times more expensive? I don't know.
Well, if you buy one of them, if you sell your new car or sell some of your GW shares, which we'll look at in a minute, by the way, then perhaps you too could afford a Mega Gargant.
But, the best bit of news is that somehow in this shop I found this. Brand new in box. Tomb King's Skeleton Horseman. Tomb King's Skeleton Horseman. Unopened. And this must be about 10 years old. And I love this. I love this shopping when you can find a bargain like that.
How much did you pay for that one?
For £24. £24 straight on eBay. Straight on eBay. Bang, bang, bang. 50 quid for that. And that paid for the Loon Shrine. So basically I got this a couple of paintbrushes, and some paints for squat.
Some would
And
argue that Remington is what's wrong with the world. Between this and your stock market manipulation.
I say that's good entrepreneurship. That's what I said. Should have bought it for love, Rem. Well, I don't collect Tomb Kings, but if I did, I would have kept them for sure. A man after my own heart, Rem, says Stu Gibson. See, Stu knows how to play this game of ours. This buying and selling game.
So, quickly scanning through the chat before we move on and look at some of the other things that are quite shocking about this article in the Warhammer community. Batzuka also has a Surface Pro apparently and confirms they are very nice. So I think you should set up a Facebook group, Surface Bros, and only people that have a Surface Pro can enter, which means I'm not allowed in. And I'm happy to accept that. We've got Tabletop Minions, the YouTube celebrity legend himself, is in the chat. And he wants one of those giants. Raphael wants to get 3 of them, presumably making 3 main varieties out of that. See what else we got here. Brad, of course, danglage is important. When it comes to building up a sprue, if there's any space on it, anyone out there who's in the miniature creation business, you've got a sprue, bit of empty space, why not add a bit of extra danglage onto the sprue? Probably not going to cost you any more money. I imagine a sprue of a certain size pretty much costs the same, however much or little you jam into it. So, more danglage.
It's a lot. I mean, Andy, I've got to say that one of these giants is getting close to the cost of one Games Workshop share.
Oh, but before we get to that, Neil says, is it Azhag the Slaughterer?
Yes, that's it. Azhag the Slaughterer is the name. Azhag the Slaughterer. He finds this, the story is he finds this crown. Of course, he puts it on his head because he's a thick orc, and the crown turns him a bit mad.
I had the classic Azhag the Slaughterer back in the day, which I purchased on the same day that I got my Marauder Giant, when GW were running a buy 3 box sets, get the cheapest one free or half price promotion. That was the day I got the Marauder Giant, Azhag the Slaughterer, Snotling Pump Wagon, a load of goblins, a load of orcs, spider riders, all kinds of stuff.
And I have that original Snotling Pump Wagon. I had it, one of the first miniatures I bought, and then I decided to chop it up for some reason to turn it into different things. Cut my finger a load of times. Years later, I bought another one. So I haven't put that one together yet, but yeah, that's a classic, right? Just wish it was actually effective in the game.
And Mr. Rem, you may think that it's quite harmless what you did in that shop, immediately flipping those Tomb Kings on eBay, but Annie has laid out a potential scenario here. So, okay, get this.
Yeah.
A young child saved up £24 for the Tomb Kings after first seeing it and came in that day to finally buy it. Only to see you scarpering out the door, already on your phone, putting it on eBay before you'd even got through the door.
Well, let me just put a counter argument to you. A young child wouldn't probably know anything about Tomb Kings because the last time they released a book for Tomb Kings was like, I don't know, 2004 or something.
Well, that's around the last time you made a YouTube video, so maybe they stumbled across your channel and got some Tomb Kings ideas from that, went into the shop, saw you with it, and was immediately heartbroken and ruined forever. You were that child's hero, and now look what you've done.
Yeah, but let me propose another counter argument. Somebody on eBay, probably from Spain, right, is going to see that box unopened, pristine condition, brand new, and buy that off me for, say, £50. It's not going to be £50, by the way, because I did put it up for auction, starting at $2.99. By the way, okay.
Ooh.
So hopefully I'll get more than what I paid for it. All right, that'll be good. But I guarantee you that whoever's buying it is going to flip it themselves, and it will be on eBay next week for like £75.
Well, in the chat, this little story continues. There's a tale of the child's grandfather who always told them about the Tomb Kings, and then on his deathbed instructed his grandson to play Tomb Kings and to snap up that final box of Tomb Kings that had been in the shop for the last 5 years. They'd go in there every week, they'd look at it, say, one day, Timmy, you'll be able to afford that. And then on his deathbed, pulled out his wallet, dusted off the cobwebs, handed over his last few coins, and that was just enough. He put it in his piggy bank, weighed it, realised, you know what, I can afford those Tomb Kings now, and I'm going to honour my grandfather. In I go. Oh no, there's Remington. He's beat me to it. Life ruined, essentially.
Well, you've got to tell little Timmy that no one plays Tomb Kings anymore unless you're pretty old and you're into 9th edition, right?
Or you play Kings of War as the Empire of Dust.
Yeah. Yeah. But there you go, man. I never thought I'd see a Tomb Kings box in a shop ever again, you know? So I don't know how that one slipped under the rug. But it was great to go back to my old old shop in Leicester. They've refurbished it, and it's just cool. Everything's like 20% off. Games Warhammer prices, Games Workshop prices. Sorry. So when I see that giant, I'm thinking £120 minus 20%. I'm thinking, what's that? £24 off. So £96. The giant's going to cost £96. Still a lot, right? Still a lot.
Boom.
Wow.
I thought I'd just catch people out with this. So before we look at that previous thing that was there, look at this. Mr. Remington sent me this picture earlier, so if it has any of his personal financial details on it, then I'm not responsible because he shared this around. So, is this another all-time high for Games Workshop? In the midst.
Oh man, you betcha. Like, just some little background here. The stock market has gone crazy. It's gone down. It's recovered. It's gone down. And every time President Trump either sneezes or trumps, the stock market changes. So, despite all that, Games Workshop seems unaffected, and it's just charging its way up. So, in something like January, February, or March time, I started buying the shares at a humble price. And the dotted line in the middle is my average price of shares, which is something like £60. And I held on for dear life through that big tumble down period there you see in the middle. I held on, held firm, and I've been rewarded because I'm now 72% up. And so my 10 shares, which cost me something like £600, are now worth £1,059.90. So that's a 72% increase in my shares. And I'm glad I didn't sell them. Like some of you guys were telling me to sell them at £390 profit, and I've held on. I'm going to hold them until January. That'll be a full year, and let's see what happens. Viva la workshop!
Well, before you decide that, let's give a little bit of info here. So, I noticed today, you will of course know that Games Workshop is based in Nottingham. Now, I don't know whether they're at all affected by the local Nottingham situation, but I did see that Nottingham was trending on Twitter earlier for the reason that it's now in the top 5 places in England for the spread of COVID. Do you think that could affect GW?
Well, it is what's known as a stay-at-home stock, because despite everyone being sent home, people have been buying and painting miniatures and being more into the hobby than before. And even though the shops haven't done so well, the online shops have done really, really well. And Games Workshop was only temporarily closed. So, yes, it has been affected, but despite its diminished capacity, it's had better than ever sales in all departments, especially its IP. So, and you know what? Not many people really notice Games Workshop in the world of shares. They're all interested in Google, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Apple or whatever, big things like that. And no one's really noticed Games Workshop just creeping up because they think, what, plastic miniatures? Why would I invest in that? But who would have thought it, hey?
Here's a scenario for you. As far-fetched as it may seem, all the GW higher-ups, they're not off on some island somewhere. They're all currently congregating somewhere in Nottingham. All of them virus struck. All of them incapacitated for several weeks perhaps. With nobody at the helm, the GW ship steers immediately into the nearest iceberg. The stock price plummets and Remington is down.
Well, it would have to fall by 70%, which is a bigger crash than, the stock market crash of the 87 or the stock market crash of 2008, or indeed the stock market crash of 1929. So that happening is very unlikely. But you know what? You know what I'll do if it crashes? Buy more.
Controversial.
That is what I'll do. But I thought you were going to say, Andy, if all the head honchos at Games Workshop are paralysed, they will turn to one of their loyal shareholders to take over the company. What do you think about that? That would make a great Netflix series, wouldn't it? I might hire you as an advisor, Andy.
I think you would need all the advisors you could get.
It would be brilliant, man. We'd have a round table of knights of good, and it would be Uncle Atom. It would be you somewhere. Maybe you could be like my Baldric, right? And then we'll have Mickey Genver and Stu Gibson, all the infamous A-listers running the show there. And I can guarantee you that Age of Sigmar will be top of the agenda, not 40k.
So, GW, this is a bit of a message to you. We know that you watch this show. We know that you shamelessly rip off all of our segments. Last week, what did we do? We had a history of giants. Went through the ages, and then we went beyond looking at all the current stuff as well. GW, of course, now have released their own little article with the history of their giants. Coincidence? I think not. However, they went even further back than we did, actually, with this thing.
I don't remember that, Andy.
Allegedly, the original Citadel Giant. I certainly don't remember it, so this was not a thing when I started. But we've probably got a few old people in the chat looking at one or two names in particular, regular viewers, who would probably remember this thing, but it's quite an interesting specimen. Let's have a large picture there. So, the back of his body there actually looks like a slice of toast. Interesting side note. So, is this even before your time, or was this just like parallel to your time, but wasn't something that you would have noticed?
I don't remember that giant, so I'm thinking this giant must have been pre-1985.
It's an interesting beast, though.
Yeah, I thought that looked like a plague mask he was wearing, right? It looked like a big beak, but it's not. It's his nose. And he's got like a Baldric peasant's hat on, which I like. And the guy on the left, the giant on the left, who does he look like? Brian Blessed.
He certainly does. And we were both thinking that, so it's obviously not just in our heads.
Love that. I love that giant. They should re-release that one. Brian Blessed as a giant.
If they put this on Made to Order, would you be all over it?
I'd be all over that, man. It looks like a lot of fun. The Brian Blessed giant shouting.
I don't know how big it actually is, though.
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I can't imagine it'd be too big. It'd probably be... Do you think it's as big as the Marauder giant? I'm thinking about that size.
Maybe. Does anyone out there have one of these? I want to see pictures of it if you do. Or if you even know of one out there that exists in the world, because I don't remember ever seeing this model before anywhere. Unlike this bad boy. And now this half of the picture fills everyone with joy. This half of the picture fills everyone with misery, regret, memories of long nights, super glue stuck to your fingers, thinking, is it finally time to pin a model for the first time?
That Marauder Giant is an actual downgrade for me. It's a downgrade from the ones you've just shown. And an Uncle Atom from Tabletop Minions. It says the other giant was 200 millimeters.
Oh yeah, it does show you on that one there. Look, 200 millimeters down the side there.
So 20 centimeters. So how many inches is that? About 7, I want to say. 7 inches.
It's a little bit more than that, I think. It's an inch, about 2.5 centimeters.
Exactly 2.5 centimeters. 7.8 inches, says Tabletop Minions. Wow, we should get Atom, Uncle Atom, come back on the show, man. We've missed you. That's why we're not getting enough viewers anymore. You know?
Marauder Giant, classic. It's my personal favourite, even if for these old bogies. But
yeah, his eyebrows look ridiculous, man.
One thing I dislike about this giant was the tiny base that he came on. No way he's going to stand up under any kind of table nudging. There's no way his feet will attach. How are you supposed to know which way is forward? Because you have to put him on diagonally. His feet don't even end up nearly on the base if you don't turn him diagonally. So you can't just have this point being forwards in most of the Warhammer rules.
Sculpted by Trish Morrison. Trish and Ali Morrison were the couple behind Marauder Miniatures. Did you know that?
Nice little tidbit there from Remington's Fact File. So, we've looked at the giant. Let's look at some of these details a little bit before we move on. Not too much. There's a hook. This guy's mouth. It's a bit strange looking, the flesh. Maybe it's the paint job on it, but it just looks a bit weird and out there to me. Pretty unusual.
Now,
Let's
Andy,
enlarge that so people can look at it properly.
I've seen their paint jobs from up close, okay? Because, well, we both live near Nottingham. I work in Nottingham now. So I can tell you that these pictures have definitely been treated because they don't look like that in real life. They're good still. I'm not dissing on it too much, but...
Well, if you've got this magnificently painted miniature, and then after it's been photographed and all the pictures are being prepped, suddenly you spot an imperfection in the paint job. Is it a crime, really, to head over to Photoshop and give it a little touch up?
No, I'm not saying there's imperfections in the paint jobs. I'm just saying they're not as shaded and not as, You're
saying they just have really optimal lighting conditions for the best possible photo?
Yes. Yeah, which is fair enough, man. Nothing wrong with that. And I don't think it's their policy because, of course, they could get absolute expert painters to do their models. All right. I don't know whether they could do it in time for when they need the paint jobs to be shown. I don't know. But I think it's quite deliberate that they don't do magnificent paint jobs because it would just put people off. People would stare in wonder, but they'd also think, flipping heck, I can't. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to have to be like a top expert to be anything like this. So I think the way they present their paint jobs are kind of like, you could do this if you practiced a bit.
Some people were turned off from our show from looking at our paintwork, realising that they would never be able to attain that level of painting supremacy.
Well, I think, yes, when they saw mine, that's for sure. When they saw yours, they think, well, if I just buy a spray can of orange and a spray can of gold, I'll be mostly there.
That's about halfway there in some of my models. Two of my favourite colours there for miniatures. So, we asked the audience to give us some gigantic pictures last time as well. And, well, first image is a little bit cheeky, shall we say. However, there is a front view as well. Yep. So I believe this one is from Drunken Deer on the Discord server. If you're not on the Discord server, why?
Well, Drunken Deer, I think you need some Games Workshop photography to show off your paint job even more. But I love the conversion. I love it.
Very spicy. Now, I think these next ones are from Darb on the Discord server as well.
Was there a monkey on the back of that last giant? I'm sure there was. That's a phrase, isn't it? You got a monkey on your back.
Yeah, it could be actually. Like it. Okay, this one. What do you think of this bad boy?
Wow. So how was this model like that, or was it converted?
I don't know. Maybe someone will let us know if this is an existing model out there as it is, or whether it's had any work done to it. But there's more. 2 more, in fact. So.
I love that.
There you go, carrying what appears to be a horse.
Wow. That's like hideous, but hideously amazing.
Getting ready to stomp down on something there.
Wow, I love that. That's definitely she's gonna flatten something, man.
And then
that's really cool.
This is actually the Mantic Giant. Also by the same person.
Nice. He's definitely got some skills there, hasn't he, to have blocked all those arrows.
Well, maybe the ones that get stuck in the skin eventually get plucked out and heal up, whereas the ones just stuck in the armour, just leave them there.
I mean, they look like crossbow bolts, really, so they'd probably dig in even. That'd be really painful. I don't care how big you are, but if that hits one of your nerves, that's going to be very painful.
Where would you not like to be hit as a giant? I'd say right on the end of the big toe.
Or, yeah, on the noggin. Wouldn't like to be hit on your noggin. I mean, I don't know why giants expose themselves so
Who's
much.
going to hit your noggin anyway?
Yeah. And do you think giants would be a bit more hairy?
Perhaps. Maybe they have an army of peasants to shave them.
Maybe. I hope in this new box set we get some like bits like, people being scared or the odd animal or... Do you know what I mean? Like random little bits to add to the giant diorama.
I can tell you now, that bit of flesh there, right in the centre, that is likely a candidate for a future What the Hell Is That episode. Just because it was so fiendishly difficult last week. Okay, that's enough of that. So, speaking of What the Hell Is That, I think it might be time, and because last week maybe a bit too challenging for everybody, made it a bit easier for everyone this week. So don't worry, everyone can participate. It's fun for all the family. And let me just fire up that intro video for you.
What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it a chaos dwarf or a vampire bear? Oh, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? Oh, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? Only Andy and Remington, Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know. What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it Sigmar's beard or Neferata's hat? Oh, what the hell is that? Oh, what the hell is that? Is it a mangled squig or a sorcerer's rat? Only Andy and Remington, Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know.
There you go, everybody. So, what the hell is that? I think people might struggle with this one based on their performances last week. Come on, who's going to be first? Who's it going to be?
Is this a trick question, Andy?
No. I've tried to make it a little bit easier for people, but could still be too difficult. Let's see. Oh, had some guesses. Gargant? No. Angler-squig? No. It's not a Skaven poop flinger catapult. It's not a moonworm or a vampire bat or a maw crusher.
Is this possible? Is this the reason we only get a couple of hundred? We used to get a couple of thousand. Now we get a couple.
Okay, I'm only kidding, folks. This isn't the real What the Hell Is That. It's merely a joke. Calm down. Here's the real one. Boom. There you go.
Ooh.
Look at that. So you might say this one is, what the hell is hat?
Is it Saki? That's amazing. Is that Mr. Whippy?
It's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Oh, that's right. Stay put, but he's got something on his head which doesn't look like it belongs there.
It does. So we're going to let some guesses flow in, and then we'll go through them in a second. But this one, I don't think this one's too difficult. I think it's pretty easy. Maybe not as easy as the joke, what the hell is that? Which nobody got still, despite the clues. Okay, I think it's time. So, the guesses that we've had. Blood Knight, not a Blood Knight. However, Brad says White Dwarf Helmet. And what? White Dwarf Helmet, you say? Bum bum bum. Correct.
Wowzers.
It's the helmet from this particular White Dwarf. Also known as the White Dwarf holding Poisson.
That's phenomenal, man. Well done. Well done, Brad. Wow, he's one of our top contestants for sure, man. Good
Keen
game.
eye there. Okay.
Wow, I don't think I would have ever got that, Andy. That's not saying much, but impressive.
I did like that one. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. And of course, let's have another look at this one. Okay, folks, it's time. We've had everyone's second favourite segment of the week. It's time for the undisputed number one. And Mr. Remington, do you have your instrument and do you have your uncanny ability to lose 50% of your musical notes to the void?
Oh, God. Can you hear this?
Most of it.
Oh, is it like cutting out those?
I'm pretty sure it's in your Discord settings. Something is amiss.
Try muting your microphone. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. In the forest, boys become men in the forest of red. Is it a chicken or is it a hen in the forest of red? In the forest of red. Forest of red. Where Andy is the DM in the forest of red. In the forest of red. In the forest of red.
Okay. So I think the trick is you need to keep all your notes very short and sharp. As soon as you stretch them out, then it cuts. Or you just need to do the studio version of the Forest of Rem theme song that you've been promising for the last 4 months.
It's so bloody good in this room, I'm telling you, man. These are like golden notes coming out and being crunched up and thrown to oblivion.
That people may never know. Oh yeah, you haven't done the Bad Squiddo Games theme song yet either. After you promised a studio version of that too.
I know. Oh God, Bad Squiddo Games. I want my goddamn theme song too. Yes, Remington could cut a record version. How about I record all these things and you monetize them, Andy, and keep all the money?
Sounds good. Let's do that. Okay, folks, it's time for the Forest of Ren. Is it a chicken or is it a hen? Maybe we'll find out tonight, finally. So, you may recall that last week, Remington, all too eager to sacrifice his henchfolk that he has recruited to aid him in his bitter struggle against his future descendant, Remington the Everchosen. The final showdown surely draws near. Remington has been making his way there. His path has been littered with obstacles, some of which he has leapt over gracefully, others he has just fallen through headfirst. You may recall that last week he inadvertently slaughtered a peaceful village of celebratory gnomes who were eager to wish him a happy birthday and were met only with bloodshed and despair. However, have you got anything to say about that before we move on?
Roshi says Remington is too busy buying Jaguar cars and looking at the stock market. Well, you're right about the second one. Sorry about that. Yeah, something about gnomes, crashing a gnome party and then ruining the whole thing. That sounds familiar. So yeah, I believe I've sacrificed my whole party.
Well, not quite.
I've got one left. Is it the Beast? No, the Beast got killed.
Beast got killed. You've still got little Tommy Tidgeball. You've still got Derek Dangler. And you gained Bob the Gnome as well.
Bob the Gnome? What can he do, though?
He looked pretty ferocious.
Oh, God. I've got, like, the worst 3 companions. Like, I've just sacrificed, like, a magician with extraordinary power, an unbelievable assassin, and a handy fighter, and I've got little Tommy Titchmarsh left. He's like a gnome. He's like a goblin thief or something.
He's a rogue, and Derek Dangler is kind of a dwarven tinkerer. So you've got these 3 tiny little folk with a myriad of skills at your disposal, and surely that's going to be enough to bring down the ever-chosen Remington, the mightiest beast in all the realms.
Oh, God, it don't look good.
Surely, and you're making your way through the forest. And
okay.
Approaching the mountain, the name of which I can't quite remember because it was mentioned about 3 episodes ago, but I think it was something like the Mountain of... something along those lines. So, on your way there, you can see the summit in the... No, it's not quite the distance anymore. You're actually approaching it rather rapidly as the trees begin to part and you reach the base of the mountain. It's time to set up base camp with your comrades. Do you have a kind of inspirational speech? This is going to be a treacherous journey up the mountain with an even more treacherous conclusion at the summit. So would you like to rouse their spirits?
Right, boys, this don't look good. I've got to admit, I don't think your talents are anything like the sort of level we're going to need here. We're going to come across some real bad things. And I just want you to know, I appreciate you being here, and I will try and roll my dice as best as I can, but it don't look good. But you never know. This is the kind of thing that makes heroes, right? From zeros, yeah? So you guys stick with me, and maybe, just maybe, you can become a legend and return home a hero with a massive stash of gold.
Well, I'm not sure about Bob the Gnome returning home, since you kind of butchered his entire clan. Most of them.
Well, you know, he can be the king of the gnomes. There's no gnomes left after him.
That is true.
He's going to need some cash, so he's probably better stay with me.
So, you do have a choice to make. There are 3 paths up this mountain that you can see. One of them spirals out of sight behind the mountain, so it's pretty much the unknown path. One of them goes straight up and reaches an almost vertical kind of incline. So there will be some climbing involved in that one. Very perilous indeed. And the third looks quite pleasant, actually. It's nice, grassy kind of hills that lead up almost to the slope, and then there's a bit of mountainy bit at the top but it looks all just sunshine, roses.
Well, let's take that. Why would you take the unknown when there's green pastures ahead of you?
So you're going to
Let's take that.
You're going to take the lush green fields.
Absolutely, especially ones I've got, because they're going to be like terrible in any kind of violent counter.
Very well. Okay. William says, is one of the paths dimly lit? Well, the one that runs behind the mountain does become dimly lit as it reaches kind of the more cavernous regions. So you may have to pass through one or two caves if you'd gone that way. But you've chosen the nice, pleasant, grassy route, lined with flowers, all the colours of the rainbow. And would you like to roll the dice to see how your skills are at navigating and travelling along this path?
I will certainly give it a go. I have my skull dice at the ready, and I'm going to roll a Remington. And it's a 2, which is good, right? Because, you know...
Well, it's not a 1.
Don't want to roll too high.
It's not a 1, so the earth isn't going to open up and swallow you down into the fiery depths where you're going to have to duel all kinds of demons. It's not quite that bad. So, upon these green and pleasant slopes, you notice that there's an abundance of fowl. Feathered birds, flightless, as far as the eye can see. On two sides of these hills, but none in the centre. However, as you draw nearer to this hill, you notice that there is actually kind of trench system dug on each side. And as you pass through with your comrades, roll the dice. Something's happening.
Flightless birds, eh? Dodos. Maybe we could ride them or eat them. Who knows? Remington. Oh, it's a 6. I'll just say that calmly from now on.
It's a 6. Wow, okay. So, as you're wandering through, in your pack of provisions, you do have a frying pan, coincidentally, and a white egg flies overhead as part of a barrage. One of them lands smack straight in the middle of the frying pan, and the sun immediately fries it up beautifully. All the other eggs go over your head towards the opposite trench system. So there's clearly something afoot here. After a few moments, a similar barrage is launched, but in the opposite direction, and these eggs are kind of speckled.
Speckled eggs.
So, are you going to eat this fried egg first of all?
Well, have I got a halfling? Have I got a halfling rogue near me?
You have a rogue, yes.
Yes, I'm going to tell the rogue to cook us up a nice breakfast.
To go with this egg?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then roll the dice. Let's see what you can find among your provisions.
Okay. Hopefully this egg doesn't hatch and turn into a giant carrion. Remington, it's a 2.
Well, your rogue is able to rustle up a delicious, juicy, plump, dead rat, which he lovingly fries up next to the egg and serves it up for you. While this is going on, however, you hear what can only be described as a rather... It's like a cluck, but also a battle cry. It's like a... And a swarm of feathered beasts make their way across the hill, heading with full force to the opposite side, where they immediately clash with an opposing force of similar creatures, begin brutally pecking each other. It's quite a bloodbath, and you're stuck right in the middle of it. Chickens rushing past you in all directions, taking chunks out of each other, feathers flying everywhere, ruining your freshly cooked breakfast. You've clearly found yourself in some kind of chicken war.
They're not attacking us, are they?
Well, it doesn't seem like that at the moment.
Okay, well, I've seen worse, so I don't know. I'll carry on eating my breakfast, I think.
But your breakfast is all covered in feathers.
Oh, I really have no idea what to do in this situation. I'm going to read the comments, see if someone can help me.
Well, what should Remington do about
Jimenez.
this?
He says, make that clucking battle cry a soundbite.
Be done. Does anyone in the audience have a suggestion on what Remington should do about the situation? Should he just try and completely ignore it and pass it by? Should he try and resolve it somehow? Should he attempt to decapitate all the chickens and have them for dinner? That would be his usual choice, I think. Decapitation's often how it goes.
This is a situation, surely, for the dwarf to come up with contraption, something to frighten off the birds, right? Maybe he can generate some kind of grenade.
Here's a suggestion from Batzuka. Play your instrument and befriend. Is Remington a friend of the birds? Friend of the fowl?
I have a bird growing out of my arm. Mutant.
Well, another incarnation of Remington certainly did. You've just got a sleeping...
Neil Park says, perform the birdie song. William Matthews says, build a scarecrow. Do you know what? I'm going to leave it to the dwarf. All right, let
Dwarf Tinkerer
ingenuity
to come up with something. And what is the intention of this invention? Are you trying to clear the field so you can get past?
Clear the field, yes. Clear the field. Let's find a path through this.
Okay, roll the dice.
Mess.
Let's see what you can tinker up. I seem to remember you've had terrible dice rolls for the dwarf and his inventions so far.
Well, Brad Jimenez, make the dwarf build a mechanical fox. It's a good idea. I think it might take a little time, though. Right. Remington! Oh, God. It's a 1.
It's a 1.
It's awful.
Well, the Dwarf Tinkerer. Perhaps you should have put his skills to a more stringent test before you recruited him to your party, because the first thing he comes up with, as he tinkers away in his little mobile workshop, appears to be some kind of chicken homing device. And all of them make a beeline straight for your party, with their beaks raised, ready to strike. However, just before they reach you, all fall silent. The chickens stand still, stop. They're staring at you, gnashing their beaks. And a cloud parts, and a voice emerges, addressing you. Remington, you must bring peace. The chickens and the hens have fought for so long. It is time for the war to end. You are the only one who can bring tranquility back to my lands.
Is there some sort of reward for this?
Safe passage.
And?
Gold, I suppose.
Gold, that's good. What about a really powerful companion?
You shall have the mightiest companion of all, Remington, if you should succeed in bringing peace between these two warring factions. The chickens and the hens.
Well, I shall take up your offer, and I shall do my very, very best.
Very well, Remington. Make it so. The cloud closes up again. Chickens and the hens. If they had teeth, that's what they'd be doing. In your direction. And in each other's directions.
Right,
it's like potential for a frenzy here. How are you going to diffuse this?
Let's sort this out. Right, who's the leader of the chickens and who's the leader of the hens?
It doesn't seem to be that organised, to be honest.
Okay. Well, let's put out some. Have we got any breadcrumbs or stuff that birds like to eat?
Well, you've probably got some crusty old mouldy bread somewhere in your magic. Actually, you lost your magic satchel, didn't you? You voluntarily left it behind. So yeah, you've probably got some, like a few crusty crumbs, but not enough to quell this entire swarm.
Okay, right. Well, let's just let's all let's all sit down, all right, and make a big circle, and let's sing a, a hymn.
Well, let's roll a persuade chickens check.
Right. Okay. I shall mesmerize these.
Let's see how persuaded they are to even sit down at the peace
I'll be
table.
like the Pied Piper of chickens. Here we go. Remington. It's a 5. That's beautiful.
That's pretty good. So, chickens and the hens take a seat around you in rings, and they're willing to hear you out. They're willing to listen to the words of Remington, and they're open to the prospect of peace for perhaps the first time.
Right. I'm going to tell them a story. I'm going to tell them a story of one of my, just like C3PO telling the story to those, those little furry things on the planet of Endor, and I'll get the Tinkerer to like make some sound effects and some flash and bangs and stuff, and just make them see that they might be hard. They might think they're hard in this grassy plain, but out there in the real world, they're just dinner to someone else. And the only way they are going to survive this horrendous life is by banding together and living in peace, chickens and hens together. What the world needs now is love, clucking love.
Well, first of all, you're going to have to roll the dice to see how reliable the Tinkerer's sound effects are. So let's have some.
Okay, because the speech was pretty damn good, wasn't it? Come on, man. I thought that was great. Right. Remington! Oh, no. It's a 1, but come on, man.
Well, that part of the plan hasn't worked very well. In fact, the Tinkerer comes up with something that kind of shoots firework-like devices into the air. They go off, but all they seem to do is spook the chickens. He accidentally launches like circular saw blades everywhere or something similar and decapitates a few. They're getting a bit restless now. Decapitations will do that to an army.
Well,
so
I'm going to use that.
you're going to have to serenade them into peace. You're going to have to actually sing for them a little bit.
That's just the sort of thing that can happen in the real world there, right? So I've just made this story real.
You're going to have to give them a few notes, I'm afraid.
I don't want to sing anymore. I don't want to.
That'd be a good soundbite. You got to give them just a verse. Keep the notes short and sharp, and they'll be able to actually hear all of them as well. Very well. So they were able to actually hear all the notes of your song. There was no kind of interplanar interference. And the chickens and the hens, for the first time, lock eyes with each other as the sweet, soothing sounds of Remington's pluckery drift past them. And they realise, looking at each other, we're the same. Chickens, hens. It's not a question of is it a chicken or is it a hen. It's is it a chicken and a hen. Together as one. A chick hen. The chick hen race. Nothing can stop them. They merely band together as foul comrades. Remington, you've successfully brokered peace between these two warring factions. You've made them see that they're not so different after all. And that if they just stick together, they too can avoid the Colonel's wrath. They part and allow you to leave the luscious green field onto the final stage of your journey. Just
That's
heading up to
amazing.
the mountain peak. That is all that remains.
Wait, what about the gold and the really powerful companion?
Well, we're getting to that. As you exit the field, reach the base of the peak of the mountain, the clouds open up. On one side, a pleasant, white, fluffy cloud. The other side, grey, swirling clouds with red lightning right at the peak. Clearly, this is the epicenter of Remington the Ever-Chosen's power, and this is where you must face him. Final showdown. But your cloud-based chum from earlier, mysterious voice from the heavens, speaks to you again. Remington, you have succeeded. You have brought peace to my chicken children. And for this, I will reward you with my greatest warrior. Find gold in a sack on his back. Before you materializes a 5 foot tall, rippling with muscles, rippling with feathers, rippling with 3 beaks, a mutated chicken warrior with human arms and a mighty sword in each hand. 3 beaks, I said. You must name this warrior, for chickens and hens have no need for names.
I've got a good name for him. What about Feeder?
Feeder. Okay, I'll make a note of that. Very well. You find a sack
Feeder
filled with gold coins on the back of your new companion.
Nice. I mean, do you know what? If you're the gnome companion I've got, you must think you've struck it gold here today. He's done bugger all. He's literally just accompanied us, and now he's become a rich man. He's not getting an ounce of this gold unless he proves himself.
Well, he'll have ample opportunity because it's only a short trip to the peak now, and you suspect by nightfall you'll be face to face with your descendant, who has sapped the life force of all the other Remington incarnations and taken it as his own to become the ultimate Remington, rejuvenated himself, top his mighty mount, Jeff the Chimera. It's almost time for the final showdown. Next week. Don't miss it. And that is that for this week. Are you ready next week for the thrilling conclusion? Season 2 of The Forest of Rem.
Bring it on, man.
What twists and turns are in store?
It's not going to look good for my companions, I can tell you that much.
It usually doesn't. I'm surprised you didn't manage to sacrifice half of them in this episode. Okay. One last look through the comments. Drop them in there quick, because we're drawing to the end of this episode now. So, obviously, everybody, don't forget to check out all the links in the description, all the various social media shenanigans going on down there, all the various fundraising sources, obviously. And, as I bring up the episode thumbnail again for you to marvel at, look at that, that's some beautiful clickbait there. Can't beat 3 shocked faces and an upside down Remington being held by a giant and a huge price tag. Look at that. So, speaking of money, I'm going to head on over to Patreon now and give a personal special thanks to those patrons who have pledged to a sufficient level to receive personalised, extra special, extra juicy, spicy, succulent, tender, moist, finger-licking good thanks at the end each video. So, this week, we have special extra juicy thanks going out to the following people: Graham, Tim, John, Eric, Brad, Barbara, and Guy. All of you are extra special, extra spicy. So are all the patrons, but then some of you didn't pledge quite high enough to get mentioned by name. Mr. Remington, would you like to bid our audience a fond farewell, or have you got any other parting words for them?
This is the first episode in a long time where we've had no thumbs down.
Wow.
So that's pretty cool.
Well, someone's going to fix that
just
soon enough.
Click the like button for something. It might help more than a couple hundred people.
Mr. Remington's internet decided it's had enough. It looks like it. I'm going to get rid of the thumbnail briefly, and you can see. Look at him there. Look at him in all his frozen glory. There you go. Well, let's just assume that he was going to tell you to give me all your money, because he doesn't want it. He doesn't put in any work on this show, and he thinks that I should be greatly rewarded for it. And also that Andy Palooza is the far superior convention when lining up against RemCon. And he's back, actually, by sheer coincidence, but oh no, he's got no audio. What's going on? Oh no, it's crazy. And all that remains to be said, folks, is good night out there, whatever you are.
It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer Fantasy, it's easy to learn.